The Dodgers hit the halfway point, and Yamamoto is razor sharp. That's coming up next on Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every single day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, you can check us out on YouTube as well if you would like to look at us while we talk about the Los Angeles Dodgers, your team, every single day. My name is Travis Rogers, spelled like Dodgers. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Travis Rogers. And if you are just dipping your toe in the Locked On Dodgers universe, welcome. I am the new guy here. Been here just about wrapping up my first week. Done a whole bunch of things here in LA, including my long-running radio show on ESPN LA, which runs from 9 to noon every single day. Also do the Locked On Rams podcast with my pal Doug McCate. So let's jump right into it. The Dodgers in Colorado wrapping up the first half of their season last night. A comfortable win in Colorado after a little bit of a lengthy rain delay. The Dodgers finished their first 81 games of the season at 50-31, 19 games over 500, which is, obviously works out to exactly a 100-win pace, which is slightly below some of the preseason projections as far as the odds makers go, but also I think way below where I think anybody might have thought the Dodgers would be, considering how they have actually played for big chunks of this season. Now, it really does seem like they've started to hit their stride in the last couple of weeks or so. We know what it looked like after, the May and June. A good chunk of that was against very good teams, likely playoff teams where they were able to keep their head above water. And now that we've seen them take on the Washington Nats and Colorado Rockies, they're starting to stack some series wins, going back to San Francisco, going back to San Diego, and they're starting to come and put that record together like I think a lot of people were expecting. But at the halfway point, 50 wins, would you have taken the over or the under? I think most people would have taken the over, and here it is at 50. Wouldn't be surprised if they get a lot more than 50 wins in the second half of the season. Comfortably in first place, maybe not pulling away like some expectations as well, but seriously right there where you feel pretty good about what's coming, because like we talked about in an early edition of Locked On Dodgers, and certainly the everydayers will know this, the Dodgers really have not hit their stride in a meaningful way. They've had little fits and starts where they've looked good for a week or so, but they really have not had that 1 month where you turn around and they only lose 3 or 4 games throughout the course of the month. And that's what they've been able to do just about every single season over the last decade or so, where whether it's June or July, all of a sudden they just boom, gone, see ya, and create a huge gap in the NL West standings. Wouldn't be surprised to see that again. So let's start with Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who, quite frankly, coming into this game, I think was a little bit of a question mark. Not that he isn't anything other than an ace pitcher in this league, but had not looked like it for quite some time. Did not really get a whole lot of run support for most of the season, and that continued last night. When he ultimately left the game, they had a 1-run lead. Thank you, Colorado Rockies, for being the Colorado Rockies and not being able to catch pop-ups, but that's a topic for another day. But this was one of the better Yamamoto outings that we've seen in quite some time. And I think 2 things are at play here. Number one, in Coors Field, anytime you can get in there and pitch multiple innings and not give up a single run, you've done a very good job. So you can take that as a point of pride, to be sure. The other part is it's the Colorado Rockies. This is not a team that is loaded with all-stars or guys that are terribly dangerous. But like we've talked about a bunch of times, anytime you go into Colorado and can get out of there with a solid pitching performance, you're going to feel pretty good about it. The numbers for Yamamoto are not good. They're very, very good. Yamamoto goes the 5 innings, then the rains hit, so he's not able to go out there and go a little deeper into the game, but was absolutely dominating. Just the 1 hit, no walks, was in there just wiping guys out, and that's really one of the things that I think you can take away from a Yamamoto start, even if it is the Rockies and even if it is, maybe some favorable circumstances, to see him be able to finish hitters, to be able to see him not have that 1 inning that kind of seems to stack and get away from him like we've seen before. To get through 5 innings with just 56 pitches is an incredibly efficient night for him. I think that's one of the things that we've seen from him, that at times he can labor. At times he can have those long innings that make you feel like, something, the other shoe is about to drop. But certainly a not last night for Yamamoto. We went into this one, or at least I did, thinking that, you know what, maybe this is the time in the season where you get him off of his feet, where you give him a little bit of rest, where you kind of hit that reset button. And not necessarily because there's an injury, but rather just a let's catch our breath. I think this is the new reality in Major League Baseball, where you're just going to see some roster manipulation where guys need to be down for a period of time to just get ready for what's coming at the end of the year, to get ready. And I don't even want to say for the Dodgers, who knows? Maybe this will turn into some sort of NL West pennant race, but this feels like something that they're going to have tucked in their back pocket sometime in the middle of August, that they're not going to have to worry about positioning. They're not going to have to worry about a bye in the first round. They're just going to have to worry about health. And the way that you get healthy is by making sure that guys are off their feet at some point during the season. And I think that at least had to be something that was going across the people who make these sorts of decisions' minds at some point. Do you give him a little bit of rest? Because let's go back to 2024. He missed half the season, basically. He missed 3 months and came back towards the end and was very, very good. We saw him be very, very good at the beginning. We talked about the numbers earlier in the week. The numbers were going up. He was still good, but he wasn't wipe out ace number one. Forget about it. You got no chance. See you tomorrow. Good. Until last night, which is exactly what he was all over again. So All-Star break obviously coming up here in just a couple of weeks. So he'll get a little bit of a breather there. Still wouldn't be totally surprised if they find a way to maybe extend that break a little long, especially considering some of the other options that the Dodgers have available to them that were not available even a few weeks ago. Emmett Sheehan in the minor leagues last night, 6 perfect innings. I get it. It's the minor leagues. It's not the big leagues, but put that together with what he looked like a couple of weeks ago or so, where he and Justin Robleski put together that game where just the two of them covered the entirety of the game. And all of a sudden you're starting to see another starting pitching option right there that will allow, who knows when Snell's coming back, who knows when Glasnow's coming back, if the indications or the reporting is right, sooner than later. So don't be surprised at all to see Yamamoto maybe take a little bit of a breather right there. You saw a couple other guys do a very good job. And again, Colorado can be a house of horrors where stuff starts to go wrong. The Dodgers were able to kind of get through it without having to lean on too many of their main guys for too long. Give Alex Vezia a ton of credit for coming in not once but twice in this series and being able to get in there and get a quick out, get off the field, get his team back up to bat, and getting himself in and out of there without a whole bunch of pitches. He did a good job last night with that. And then we saw Will Klein last night as well, who covered a couple of innings. Again, just another arm that the Dodgers can use to get some of their, I don't want to say more important, but higher leverage, to use the term that you hear Dave Roberts use a lot, some of their higher leverage arms off of their feet, a night off, especially broken record time. Everydayers are saying, I know what you're going to say, Trav. Yeah, especially in a place like Colorado where that stuff can really start to stack up on you in a relatively short period of time. If they can get out of today's game against the Rockies with Clayton Kershaw only using 2 or 3 guys out of the bullpen on the backside, that is a smash success. Not just because they've already clinched the series win with a chance to sweep it today, but you got out of there without Coors fielding your bullpen, which happens way more often than it doesn't. So all in all, a very good night for Yamamoto, a pretty good night for the pen. Michael Kopech, another good night for him. 12 of his 18 pitches were for strikes, no walks, which is always the thing you keep your eye on with Michael Kopech along the way. Dodgers obviously put up a bunch of runs as well, including, don't look now, Michael Conforto. Did he save his spot on this team? That's coming up next on Locked On Dodgers. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. So whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website, it is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you will find exactly what you need, delivered fast, coast to coast. You need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for that extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off of your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. As we continue on Locked On Dodgers, thanks for making us your first listen every single day. And as always, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to Locked On Dodgers. And while you're there, subscribe to Locked On Rams as well. Me and Doug McCain do that one every single day. A lot of Doug during the offseason and a lot of me during the regular season, but you'll get it both ways. All right, let's continue forward. And let's talk about Michael Conforto, who don't look now is, do I want to say it? I'm going to say it. Is Michael Conforto hot? Are we in officially hot territory for Michael Conforto? Another game where he hit a home run, another game where he had multiple hits, another game where he scored a couple of times, another game where he drove in a run. I'm a little reluctant to say that a guy who had a multiple RBI game for the first time all season long, yesterday, or I should say a couple of days ago, back on the 24th when he hit that 3-run home run, is officially hot, but we can at least entertain the conversation right now that he has started to hit the ball a little bit better. And you hear it all the time, whether you're listening to the Dodgers on the radio, you're watching them on TV, you know, the underlying metrics, the under the hood stuff, his hard hit rate, he's working on this, he's working on that. And, you know, he's just getting a little unlucky. The ball isn't finding the grass. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. You know, it's better hits. You know, it's better driving in runs. You know, it's better getting on base. You know, it's better not just hitting the ball hard, but getting a hit and ending up on base, feeling pretty good about it. And I think Michael Conforto, for the first time really in God knows how long, is probably excited to go to the ballpark right now. He's probably sleeping in Coors Field and asking how long he can stay there and how many more at-bats he can get at any given time. Because, you know, look, Michael Conforto is a major league player, has been for a long time, has been a successful major league player for a long time. This is not somebody that is just, you know, showing up and crossing his fingers in hopes that he can get hits in this league. He's been in it for a decade and had a bunch of success in other places, and give the Dodgers some credit for continuing to run him out there, despite the fact that there wasn't a lot of fruit on that tree. But a lot like Max Muncy, now we'll get to him coming up in segment 3 here in a bit. But when guys have track records, even when they're not hot, even when they're struggling, let's put the perfect word in, even when they stink, right? You stick with them, because guys that can hit in the big leagues will hit in the big leagues. And that's what Michael Conforto has done for most of his career. Now, the great question, of course, is always, when are they not going to hit anymore? When is it over? When is it just never going to turn around? Now, the Dodgers have a little bit of a luxury in being able to wait, in being able to have the offense that they do, and being able to have the lead that they have, and being able to have the resources that they have to continue to say, run him out there again, run him out there again. But when you listen to the people who make the decisions, the tone around Michael Conforto had really started to change. Well, we're running out of time. Well, it's got to start to happen sooner than later. Michael's been around a long time. He knows what that means. Like, when you start hearing quotes like that, that is the dun, dun, dun moment where, hey, this needs to happen now, or it may not happen, and we got to go in a different direction. Well, the good news for him is it's happening. Now, here's the flip side of this. Is this real? Is he hot? Can we really get, you know, enthusiastic, excited, and optimistic about a guy that's batting $176? Well, when you're batting $140, yeah, maybe. And that's where we're coming from. Can you really get, enthusiastic and optimistic about a guy whose OPS is still way below league average, that's sitting there at 628? Well, when he's been way below that number prior to this, maybe. I think the biggest question is, and this goes back to what we talked about when the series with the Rockies opened initially, how much of this is real and how much of this is the Coors Field vibes. Coors Field vibes are real on offense, just like the Coors Field vibes are bad on the mound, or at least they can be, or at least if you're a Rocky, they probably are. The Coors Field vibes in the batter's box can carry. You can go to another place, and just how much do you think it helped Michael Conforto? And take your pick. He's just the perfect example of this, of going in there and hitting a few balls on the barrel, of seeing the ball fly over the fence, and just knowing, you know what, I can still get some hits in this league. Does it mean that you're ready to go to the All-Star game? No. But does it mean that, hey, I don't care if it's Coors Field, I don't care if it's on a team that's going to lose 128 games, I hit a home run. And that feels good. And you get to go back to the ballpark and hit a home run again the next day. We'll see what it looks like when they go to Kansas City. That's a much better team. That's a team that I wouldn't be stunned if they ended up in the postseason. They're certainly not on the same level as the Colorado Rockies. But anybody that watches this sport, anybody that's ever played this sport, or even, done anything regarding to baseball, it is an absolute mind, you know what. And when you think you're not going to get a hit, guess what happens? You don't get hits. When you think you might get a hit, maybe. When you're convinced, hey, I'm hot, I'm going to get a hit, it helps. And right now he's thinking, hey, I'm hot, we'll get a hit. Let's see what happens next. It's got to continue. We'll see what happens today. We'll see what happens in Kansas City. We'll see what happens moving forward. If you go to KC and all of a sudden he takes the collar a few more times, he goes to KC and that batting average 176 feels like a lifetime ago, and we're back down to a lower number. If all of a sudden he's not driving in runs, he's not doing anything to help this team, then we're right back to that uncomfortable conversation that feels, or I shouldn't say feels, felt inevitable, maybe even just a week ago. Now all of a sudden it's a very different one. Looked pretty good against the Nats, has looked very good against the Rockies. We'll see what it looks like against Kansas City, because that is coming up sooner than later. So good for Michael Conforto. And by the way, if he's there, it gives them a nice little option, because stretching that lineup out, Max Muncy, we'll talk about him. Andy Pajes, we'll talk about him. The deeper that lineup goes, the more you have to pitch to Shohei, the more opportunities it gives to Freddie, Freeman, and Mookie Betts, and guys like that, Will Smith, Teoscar Hernandez. The more that back half of the order produces, the more and more dangerous this team becomes. The more and more difficult they become to try to find a way to wiggle off that hook, to pitch around Ohtani, whatever it may be. So credit to Michael Conforto for finding it a little bit. Hopefully it is real. Hopefully it stays. Hopefully we're talking about this in October. And remember when Michael Conforto couldn't buy a hit for 3 months? Well, thank goodness he's on the team right now, because he won another game for this team last night. We'll see. Long way to go, but a baby step in the right direction. And even if that is a Coors Field baby step, we will take it for sure. So let's move on to the next one. Max Muncy, hot. Freddie, Freeman, Mookie Betts, not so. The Coors Field vibes have not followed those two guys. That's coming up next on Locked On Dodgers. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about going to baseball under the lights or in the day, get a little sunburn, did that one on Sunday, or going out and playing a little golf on the green, or maybe you're a high-stakes soccer action person, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. So you're already following the action, you're watching it, you're making sure that you're plugged into everything. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. So it's incredibly easy to use, FanDuel. It is fast to pay out. You're not waiting, right? Where's my money, FanDuel? No. It happens quick and makes even a regular season game, like, I don't know, in the Mile High City against a team that's absolutely dreadful, feel like a must-watch event, right? So whether it's a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride deep into that game, deep into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like we're all part of the action. And if you are new to FanDuel, perfect time. New customers can bet just $5 and you're going to get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today, right now, and visit FanDuel.com to get started. Moving forward on Locked On Dodgers, yet again, thanks for making us your first listen every single day. Click that subscription button and make sure that you get it in your feed every single day. And check out the podcast on YouTube as well if you haven't gotten a chance to do that. All right, so let's talk about the good and the bad of the first couple of games through Coors Field from an offensive side. We talked about Michael Conforto, maybe pulling his fat out of the fire and all of a sudden finding a way to get on base and hit some home runs. This has happened a little bit earlier for Max Muncy, but don't look now. That dude is absolutely unconscious. Let's go back to Sunday afternoon at Dodger Stadium where Max Muncy had a 7 RBI day, right? He had a grand slam. He had a 3-run home run. One of those days that, 7 RBIs in a week is pretty darn good, much less in one afternoon. Well, he had 6 more yesterday. Max Muncy, another grand slam, his second in less than a week. He put 6 runs across home plate with his own bat. He had 2 more hits along the way, and he has been absolutely unconscious for the better part of a month. For those of you that have never heard my radio show, shame on you. Make sure you check that out, 9 to noon on 710 ESPN right here in Los Angeles. But I was asked the question early in the year by my co-host DeMarco Farr, Super Bowl champion DeMarco Farr, by the way. How could somebody other than one of the big 3, Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman, make an MVP push on this team? Like, what would have to happen for this for a person to do that? And I said, well, the way it could happen is if a player like Max Muncy had a monster year because they were trying to avoid those other guys. And those other guys, nobody really kind of hopped up to the front of the line and said, I can't believe what I'm seeing. Ohtani's kind of doing that again. So, he certainly is near the top of the stack. Will Smith is kind of doing what I just described and cleaning up all these things. But I was getting a ton of grief because everybody was saying on my radio, oh, you picked Max Muncy to win the MVP. Not exactly what I said, but what I did say is a player like Max Muncy, who does have a big bat, who does have a ton of opportunities hitting in a lineup like that to drive in a bunch of runs, to be the hero on a bunch of nights, could conceivably find himself in a place where he's getting some MVP consideration because of just the raw numbers of it all. And then he got off to, quite frankly, one of the worst starts of his entire career. So I whammied him a little bit. Not so much anymore. Now, he's not going to win the MVP. He's not going to make the All-Star game or anything like that. But for a guy that felt like he'd gone 9 years without a home run at the beginning of the season, he's on pace to hit in the mid-20s. And I think it's going to be more than that because, again, the pace that you see, I think the official projection is 24, which is just a math equation based on how many he's hit through how many games, et cetera, et cetera. Well, he went a month without hitting one. He's not going to go another month without hitting one. So that number's he's going to end up hitting his 30 home runs again. And this is why, again, going back to our Conforto conversation a second ago, guys that have a track record of hitting get a chance to continue to hit and hit and hit and stay in the lineup and stay in the lineup and stay in the lineup until there is literally no other option. Because the Dodgers were winning and because they were in first place, they were never in a situation where we can't deal with this anymore. And Muncy is perfect proof of that. Muncy is a great example of giving your team, giving a player a chance to find their way out of it if they have a track record of success. And Muncy right now is as hot as anybody is going to find, never mind in that Dodger dugout, in that Dodger clubhouse, but in the entire National League. So that's the good news. The bad news is a couple of other guys are in it the opposite way. And these are guys, you talk about track record. You talk about guys that are going to come out of it, that are going to hit, that like even if you said right now, game on the line in a playoff game, do you want Mookie Betts up to bat? Heck yeah. Yeah, let's go. I'm sure. You want Freddie Freeman in that spot? Go ask Nestor Cortez how he feels about that. Yes, these are Hall of Fame players with pedigrees that are really second to almost nobody. They're also ice cold right now. And Freddie is really struggling, and Freddie's doing some things that you really typically don't see Freddie Freeman do. And this is how you know he's scuffling a little bit. He's swinging at bad pitches. This is the thing that a great player like Freddie Freeman very rarely does. And when he's locked in, he almost never does. And that's chase balls outside of the strike zone. And it's human nature, right? When you can't get a hit, when you're really struggling, when you have a track record of getting hits and of helping your team, all of a sudden you want to press, you want to push, you want to do a little bit more. and you start swinging at some pitches, trying to make some things happen, and you now all of a sudden, now I'm lost. Now I'm chasing balls out of the zone. I'm not doing what has made me me, and it takes a little while to find your way back to it. He absolutely will. There is nobody that I feel better about placing a bet on that will it be right when it's time to be right or when it has to be right than Freddie Freeman. Yep, I'll take him. And if it's not him, I'll take Mookie Betts. But last night, they combined to go 0 for 9. Mookie and Freddie really have not had the power numbers that you would expect. These are both, these aren't 50 home run guys like Ohtani. These are guys that can hit, in the 20s and 30s in Mookie's case. Freddie could get up there too, but they're not driving the ball with any sort of consistency. They're not getting hits with any sort of consistency like you would expect from them by major league standards. Sure, I know Freddie's still batting over 300, but that's because he was as hot as a pistol early in the year, really cooled off, starting to chase some pitches. And Mookie, look, let's not be cute about this, has never really looked like himself in the batter's box since he got whatever it is that he got leading right before the season. Remember, he lost all that weight before they went to Japan, didn't start there. The work at shortstop may or may not be taking a toll on it. But Mookie Betts, while good, has not been great. And Mookie Betts is a great player. So when it isn't great, we start to ask some questions about why it's not. We'll see how it changes today for them. Those are guys that literally have a good day, and all of a sudden, boom, a month later, you're like, oh, yeah, that just turned all of a sudden. No better place for it to turn around than in Colorado as well. So Dodgers get the chance to finish off the sweep later today against the Colorado Rockies. Clayton Kershaw on the mound. Can he rack the 8 strikeouts that he needs to get to 3,000? We will find out before too long. And, of course, we will be all over it on Locked On Dodgers coming up next. That's why you got to be an everydayer. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen today. And for your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And, of course, you got your postcast with Pete Fox after each and every Dodger game. Check that out as well. Until next time, I'm Travis Rogers. This is Locked On Dodgers, and go blue.